Yes, dear friends, I'm still on a little bit of a kick with wanting to cover Fiends, those devilish outsiders. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, bringing you another quick tips for DMs, this time talking about devils again, and how to go about using them in your campaign, or at least establishing how to set up their goals, what their goals are, and what their plans might be, because it's hard to put yourself in the mindset of an immortal creature with an infinite amount of time to plan and expand and gain experience and be just so intrinsically clever and brilliant in their planning. That's kind of hard to do. Kind of probably sort of impossible to do. But I have tips and advice for you to make it seem like that's what these creatures are, that you've got this intricate plan all laid out for the players to explore and unravel. But before we get into exactly how to do that, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already listed yourself on such a legendary roster of heroes, then go on down, hit that like button, and share the video far and wide. But now let's start talking about how to get devilish in your planning. And what it all boils down to is how prepared you are, how much detail you've packed into your world, the setting, the exact place where everything is happening. Because those details are going to be important, and as they say, the devil's in the details. And I'm not kidding, the devil's right there in the details. That's exactly the thing that they're going to be looking at. So, say a cult has set up shop in town or in a city somewhere. Say a small city, something that's burgeoning, up and coming, growing and expanding. That expansion presents all sorts of opportunities, a place to really be rife with exploiting different loopholes, creating conditions that are morally failing in a way that makes the city harsh, disciplined, regimented, teaches people to kick down at the less fortunate and the like. A place that is lawful evil. They'll want to set up shop there, and they'll want to corrupt persons of influence. Now, the obvious person might be a mayor, a burgomaster, a lord, whoever is in charge of the place. That would absolutely be the ideal candidate. It fits. This is a person at the top of the pyramid for this local area. That's a person who has a great amount of influence over the laws, over directing people. It's exactly the kind of person they'd want to corrupt. But sometimes that's a little bit too obvious, and let's say this person is lawful good. While corrupting that person certainly would be a goal, or at least gaining influence over them, it may not be possible. It may not be possible right off the bat. So you start looking around at other persons of influence, or if not influence, people who have a means of acquiring influence. Spy masters, for example, they may not be the person in charge, but they have information, and information allows you to gain a hold over other people. Not only that, but people with money have influence, or if they don't have it, they can buy it. They can gain leverage over others. They control an important resource. So, merchants are viable targets, especially more prominent ones. And heck, it doesn't even necessarily have to be prominent ones. It can just be somebody who is investing money into merchant caravans or into ships. Somebody who's an investor has coin to spend, but is not flashy or out in the public eye necessarily. That's perfect for a lot of subversiveness right there. Somebody whose name isn't well known, but has influence from the shadows. That's perfect for a cult starting out. As in, this person, while they're generating more money, they can use that money, use their connections with different parts of society to really start pulling things together. Criminal organizations, another group to get for the cult to use to get, well, to avoid having to get their own hands dirty. They send criminals out as cover for their activities, and that can be a great entry point for players dealing with these different thieves guilds, assassins, different sorts of gangs, organized crime. They can deal with that first as the entry level, but realize something's kind of amiss here. I mean, This is just some. Yeah, organized crime is dangerous, but they seem to be better funded and better in the know, or notice that they're only hitting specific caravans. Some little thing like that where it's like, why are they just targeting them? And then they find out that these are rival merchant caravans, or at least rival caravans or shipping lanes that are owned by rival business interests. And so this person who with money is trying to muscle them out through every means possible in order to gain more influence, more coin, more money, more means of gaining power over others and influence within the city. So that can lead them to that next step. It's like, oh, clandestine cloak and dagger things. Perfect. But then investigating that person then leads them to the cult that they're part of. And now they're starting to deal with people who are fanatical. They're disciplined, organized, they're lawful evil after all. They're going to be methodical, they're going to be careful, they're going to clean up after themselves. And they're not going to they're going to try to avoid leaving evidence behind. But they still have to communicate, coordinate, and have some way of identifying each other. So, inevitably, at least from the point of leaving little breadcrumbs for the players to follow, they'll start finding more of the cult, more of its activities, and start working their way up the ranks. And they're really going to start noticing that the players are coming down on them. So they're going to do everything they can to publicly discredit them, shame them, drive out people who would do business with them, put them out of business, start attacking the people surrounding them as well as the PCs themselves. So it'll be a coordinated assault socially, financially, magically, physically, all kinds of avenues of attack that just are precise and targeted and meant to really isolate the players. Isolate them so that way they have fewer resources to draw on, while the cult tries to gain more and more themselves. But what this typically ends up doing is it just makes the players want to fight harder, and the players will start taking resources from the cult themselves. That's going to be their main means of resupply, getting coin, and, well, getting their own brand of influence. And then, of course, they work their way up to the cult's masters, and potentially really start encountering more devils, more fiends for them to fight. But that's just the start of it right there. I mean, this is just one cult, one cell, and that's just assuming that this cult is starting up. If they're more deeply entrenched in with a network of different agents and people that they can utilize and draw upon, this becomes even more difficult, especially as they begin shifting the laws in society, going from, well, the ruler's lawful good, takes it from lawful good to lawful neutral, out of, some brand of necessity, some need for law and order, maintaining peace, things like that. Justifications that any reasonable person can rally behind law and order. I mean, if those people really weren't doing anything bad, they don't have anything to worry about from the law, correct? Right? Yeah, of course. They only ran because they were in danger, not because somebody was brandishing a sword and telling them they were in trouble. No, clearly. So it goes to lawful neutral and eventually works its way down to lawful evil, as that slippery slope on down as laws become harsher and harsher and harsher. I mean, a good example of a lawful evil ruler would be Prince John. Prince John, the phony King of England. Sorry, got lost in nostalgia there, but the story, Prince John, Robin Hood, Sheriff of Nottingham, raising taxes so incredibly high, disrupting everything. It's all well within his rights as, King of England. He's able to raise taxes. He's able to send the sheriff around to imprison those for violating the law, for not paying up on their taxes, and just basically kick down at everybody less fortunate than themselves, and, do all of these things. And then Robin Hood steps up, starts fighting back against it, on and on and on. You know the story by this point. You get the idea as well. This is what happens. This is the end point, the goal for a cult is to get a city, get a population towards the point of lawful evil, because lawful evil souls are typically consigned to the 9 hells, where they're used as fuel and fodder for the blood war. And that's how the blood war begins spilling over into things for, well, drawing in mortal souls, a mortal world, and you can bring the blood war to the players that way as well. And where devils pop up, demons tend to follow. But that'll have to be a video for another time. So, what do you think? Did you enjoy today's video? Do you like this advice? Do you find it useful? Let me know your thoughts down below. Hit the like or dislike button and go down to the comments. And remember that if you're new here to the channel, go on down, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.